everyone. So at the Minded Institute, we wanted to raise the profile of yoga therapy. It's growing a lot, but we wanted to do so even more. And I thought what better way to do that than to have myself and other members of the Minded team and graduates talk about why they got into the field of yoga therapy, a bit about its offerings and the difference between yoga, therapy, and yoga. So I'm going to kick it off as the founder of the Minded Institute. So firstly, I wanted to be able to intertwine different threads of my academic and professional experience and lived experience and bring that to other people. So for example, I had studied psychotherapy, I had lived in a Buddhist monastery, later I would go on to study neuroscience, and I really wanted a discipline that would allow me to see through these various different lenses because that was already my lived experience. I don't know how many people are aware, but even though yoga therapy is, of course, a very clear discipline, and the definition of it is becoming more and more, I guess, framed, it does absorb from many different fields like medical science, psychotherapeutic skills, mindfulness, and of course, yoga. So it inherently allows that. And I think it's why a lot of people that apply to our programs come through. They want to bring through many of the things that they've learned and understand how to best help people. And that's probably the second aspect. I take very seriously the ancient texts and why they say different practices help. But at the same time, I think it's useful to understand, if we can, the discrete mechanisms through how yoga gives rise to these effects. And then we can more precisely apply them to people in need. For example, if we understand that breathing in a particular way changes mental states or has an effect on the physiology in a particular mode, then we can help people that might have depression, anxiety, PTSD, Parkinson's, etc. And so I wanted to be able to do that. And possibly so much so because I had struggled myself really profoundly, and I'm very public about that, with my mental health. And I tried so many different approaches. And I think that if I myself had had access to yoga therapy, my journey might have been a bit swifter. And so I guess that's why I'm so deeply committed to the field. Okay, so the difference between yoga and yoga therapy could be talked about all day. In fact, the International Association of Yoga Therapists created a whole scope of distinction document on this topic. I'll just be brief. For me, as I've said already, there's the integration of other fields within yoga therapy. And I really like the idea of having some appreciation from a scientific perspective and psychological perspective of the discrete value of different practices. Having said that, yoga is not reductionist, and I'm not just looking at how does chanting affect the mind and how does this particular posture affect the body. It's a system, but I still like looking at the mechanisms and by understanding them, applying them to people with different health conditions. I also think that yoga therapy, as it's very person-centered, enters the fore from the worldview of the client. And in that way, we can help them more profoundly because for some people, they're not interested, for example, in the spiritual aspects of yoga. So we can understand where they're ready to start from. And then from there, we can lead them forward through the practices that make sense to them. So it really allows change at an individual level. And it's really nice as well to be able to work with people one-on-one within their journeys through a broader knowledge base, which of course yoga therapy offers, right? Yoga therapists need to go through extensive additional training. I often say it's like the master's degrees of yoga teacher training. I hope you'll join us at the Minded Institute, whether it's just listening to what we have to say, coming to one of our programs, getting in touch about collaboration, and that you will share the value of yoga therapy for those in need. Namaste.